What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another CGC Returns unboxing. And I did get some books in. I got a couple of books that I picked up separately from this CGC batch that I wanted to show you while we're at it because they're related. And this one is the 1:10 ratio variant for The Mandalorian issue number 1. Obviously the first full appearance of The Mandalorian in comic book form. Obviously there was the Chris Sprouse cover variant from Darth Vader number 20 or 21. I can't remember. That was just a cover appearance. But this is the actual adaptation of Season 1 of The Mandalorian. So this issue will go down as the first interior comic book appearance of The Mandalorian, the first cameo appearance of Grogu. Issue number 2 has Grogu's first full appearance. But this is a great cover. This is the 1:10 again. Kind of the concept art showing the Mandalorian and IG-11 kind of hiding behind some rocks or something as they get fired at. And I apologize, as always, for any kind of comic book video about all of the reflections. I film it with no lights on, but it still has a ton of reflection. And here's the other one I picked up fairly recently. This is the 1:25 ratio variant, the U variant, cover A, that is just absolutely gorgeous. So for every 25 of the standard cover A's, only one of these was printed. And this was gorgeous. I got a great deal on this on eBay. Very happy with this one. And just an awesome cover. Very dark cover. And more on that in a little while. So last night, I did get back from CGC a pre-screen. I sent in 25 books. Good news and bad news on this batch. As you saw in the thumbnail for this video, it was a fail. It was my worst batch ever in terms of books that actually hit the 9.8 pre-screen. And I think I've learned some things on that I'm going to share as we go through this video. But there's good news and bad news from this batch. The good news is something that I mentioned in the live stream on Friday with Chris and Charles and Brandon. If you didn't check that out, we had a good time. Thank you for all who participated again and brought the questions. We'll try to do that more often. So the good news is CGC door to door, from my door to back to my door, was 12 days to get these books graded. 12 days. Think about that. Versus earlier this year, April or so, I got a batch back. It took 5.5 months. So CGC has cut their turnaround times from 5.5 months to 12 days. They arrived at the facility on September 6th. They were checked in and logged into the queue for grading in 6 hours, which is incredible. That's an incredible turnaround time. And then they were graded and sent back to me very quickly. I mean, 4 days max. So it was a really incredible experience. Now the negative is I did not do very well on this pre-screen. With a pre-screen, if you send in at least 25 books, you can pre-screen the grade. And if they don't hit the grade that you submit, then it doesn't get graded, but they charge you a reject fee. So here's the first one in this batch, and this is Dr. Effort number 21. This is another Chris Sprouse variant cover. And this is kind of going to go down as the first cover appearance of Fennec Shand, Boba Fett's right-hand woman, kind of his major domo, so to speak, major domes. I don't know what the female version is of major domo. But this is a pretty cool cover, and, kind of the first time that we see the book of Boba Fett in kind of comic book format. And I sent in 3 of these, and only 2 of them hit. So that was one of the rejects. I got 14 9.8s out of the 25. It's easily the worst batch I've ever gotten back for the grading. And I think that it's a combination of factors, which I'll kind of go into as we get through it. But a pretty great cover. I don't think I'll probably end up keeping these. For whatever reason, these Sprouse covers, even though historically they're kind of important, with the very first comic book cover appearance, or really the comic book appearance ever of Fennec Shand. She was mentioned in a Star Wars Bounty Hunters book, but she was not shown. So this is really her first appearance, and it's a great cover. I love it, but I'm kind of running out of room in my collection, guys. So I just don't have the space to keep some of these books. So I think a lot of these will probably not end up staying with me. Here's the other one that did hit a 9.8. And there's a lot of multiples in here, so I don't expect this video to be very long. But so going back to what I was talking about with CGC, I'm going to kind of intersperse commentary. I had these books pressed and cleaned by a very, very good presser. He handles $50,000 comic books. So I sent him my modern garbage, and so I sent him 33. he whittled out 6 of them, and he said, no, man, there's no way that these 6 are going to hit a 9.8 grade, so I'm not even going to charge you to press those, and I'm not going to press them. So they were looked at by me. Then they were looked at by a very, very good presser. I mean, he's one of the best in the business. He took out 6 of those books. There was 28 that were sent, and in this video, we're only looking at a batch of 25. I still have 3 of them there at CGC. So that just shows you that CGC has really tightened up their grading standards, and I've heard that. I've heard that they have a lot of new people that are handling the bulk submissions, these pre-screens, and they're very, very tight with their grading. I guess they just don't want to get in trouble. I don't know. Here's probably my favorite cover that came back in this batch, and this is the photo variant cover. Just an absolutely kind of timeless cover. I absolutely love this cover. And none of these are particularly expensive until you start getting into the ratio variants that I just showed you. But, you know, these standard covers were printed in such high numbers that I think if you're patient in an auction, you can probably pick this up for 50 or 60 bucks max. But I love this cover a lot. I actually did hit on 3 of the 4 that I sent in on this one. So I'm probably going to keep one of these just because I love that book. I mean, it's such a great cover. Very simple, clean lines. And that's kind of what I like in a comic book cover. Here's one of the others that hit the 9.8 grade. But CGC definitely has tightened up their grading standards, as I talked about in my last unboxing. Here's the third one. What an awesome book. That is awesome. This one was so popular of all the standard covers that they made a second printing of the photo variant cover that is a close-up of just the Mandalorian's head, his helmet, and I've got a photo of some copies I picked up of that second print on my Instagram at Action Figure Grader if you want to see that. So I do have some second prints as well of this book. So I think it'll look nice to get 2 of them, you know, have the first and the second print both in a 9.8. And, you know, I don't know if it's like a temporary thing with these modern books, but I've heard from the big players within the comic book community that they are just tight across the board with all modern submissions. Is it possible that some of them got damaged in shipping? Yes. But, that's what I blamed it on for the last batch, where I went 16 of 25. Well, I went even worse this time, and they were all perfectly packaged and everything. So I think it's a combination of either we missed something, which I think is unlikely. I think it's more likely that it is just the fact that the CGC graders have gotten extremely strict, because all of these books were looked at very carefully by both me as well as a presser, Magic Pressing on Instagram. And, you know, he knows his stuff better than I do. So this is the Shalvey variant cover, the very black cover. And this is when I covered in a video and I said, hey, just a heads up, I bet this book is going to be very tough to get a 9.8 in because of all the black along the edges. It shows every single little spine tick, and that proved to be the case with my submission. I sent in 6 of this Shalvey variant cover. Why 6? Because I don't even like the cover. I don't know. I think I pre-ordered them on eBay before the actual covers were shown. So, so I ordered 6 of them. I ordered 10 of them, but I only sent in 6 of them for pressing and grading, and only 1 of them, of the 6 that I sent in to CGC, hit the 9.8 grade. So of the 11 rejections in this book batch of 25, 5 of those rejections were because of this book. So, you know, I just want to emphasize that, because for those of you who are into like sending in books and pressing them and sending them into CGC, you can expect that this book will be very, very tough to get a 9.8 grade. I only went 1 of 6, and that's after I inspected them, and that's after my presser inspected them, and after they were all pressed and cleaned and sent in. So very, very tough to get a 9.8 grade in this particular cover. But as I said, I don't know why. I just don't particularly like it that much. The cover doesn't work for me that well. It's cool to see the Razor Crest on there and the emblem, the Mandalorian emblem, but it doesn't work for me. I think it's just kind of a weird art style that I don't particularly like that much. But I'm probably going to keep it because that's the only one that hit a 9.8 grade in. The rest of these are all going to be gifts to friends and my brother, things like that. Here's one that for you action figure collectors out there, I think you're going to like this one the best, and that's the John Tyler Christopher action figure variant cover. You know, he's very well known for making these JTC covers, and they're kind of like, you know, Kenner style card backs, and I did pretty well on these. We'll look in here in a second how many hit the 9.8 grade, but I sent in a bunch, and I think there were only 2 rejects from the JTC cover. So that makes 8 between the Shalvey variant, where I had 5 rejects, 1 photo variant was rejected, and then one of the Dr. Afra cover. So that's 9. That's 9 of the rejects there. But I think there was only one of the JTCs got rejected. But that's a great cover. It kind of looks a little bit like a cross between the retro collection and the vintage collection. So pretty cool cover. And let's see, I got one more of those here, 2 more, and that might be it. Let's see. Nope, I did. I got 4. I went 4 out of 5, I think is how many I sent in. So that's not terrible. And those are always pretty popular, and they'll make good gifts for my friends and my brother, things like that. So very cool. Next up, let's see what we got here. We've got the cover A variant. So, again, this is going to be a fairly boring batch because it's multiples of the same book, but this is the Mandalorian #1. This is just the standard cover A. This is, probably my least favorite cover out of all of them, even though this was used in the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. This was a cover by Adi Granoff, who typically does very, very good covers throughout the Star Wars universe. He's got a fantastic cover for Darth Vader #3, which is the first appearance of Dr. Afra and her 2 droids. That's one of a modern timeless classic that I absolutely love. But this one, for whatever reason, I don't like the way the Mandalorian looks there. It just looks kind of frumpy. But anyway, again, it's got the Razor Crest behind him with a sunset. It's I'm sure that people like it. It's just not my cover that much. But they reused this cover with a kind of a virgin variant where it was sold at SDCC. And SDCC, yeah, that's right. And he also signed a few of those, and they go for big money because they were very limited print runs. So I did get a second copy, a third copy, and then a 4th copy. So I went 4 out of 5 on the Mandalorian cover A's, and then I still have 3 more. Once you go over 25 for a pre-screen, they put the anything over that in another batch. So, going back to the premise of the video, what did I learn? I learned that CGC has gotten very, very strict with their grading. You got to make sure you pack those very, very well when you send them to CGC, which I did do, but it's very possible they got damaged in shipping. I think the other thing, the main thing I learned is that I'm not going to do a CGC 9.8 pre-screen. I'm going to, if I do any more, I think I'll probably do one more early next year. And I'll do a pre-screen at 9.6 because the reject fee is $8. If you get it graded, it's probably another $12 or so, maybe maybe $13 more versus a reject fee. And I'd rather have a 9.6 grade for these. I only collect 9.8s personally. But 9.6 grades are perfectly awesome, all right? They're kind of near mint to near mint plus, and they would make great gifts for folks. So I think that's what I learned is that, when I do another pre-screen, if and when I do another pre-screen, I'll pre-screen at a 9.6 to be safe. That way I have fewer rejections because of the CGC, graders have gotten so much more strict. And so what? If I get 5 9.6s, so what? I can, they would make great giveaways on the channel and giveaways to friends and Patreon supporters, things like that. So that would be my only advice. But, there are plenty of you out there. Tom Hogan's one. He just had a batch recently that came back like 24 out of 25. So it could be a combination of the quality of the comics I bought, combined with damage in shipping, combined with CGC more strict grading standards. But this will go down as a fail. This will go down as a fail, given that I paid roughly $88 in reject fees, and only 14 of the 25 so far hit. Again, I still got 3 more that are at CGC. I know at least one of those hit the 9.8 because they weren't rejected outright, but the grades have not come back yet. But kudos to CGC. The other thing I will say is this. CGC packed them perfectly. There's not a single scuff or Newton ring on any of these. Every single book was absolutely perfect. So CGC's quality control has gone up dramatically. Their turnaround times obviously have been they have been reduced drastically. CAS and AFA could take some notes on that. But every single book had flawless cases with not one single scratch on them. And, for Newton rings, for those of you unfamiliar, they're kind of like oil spills that kind of show because the inner liner was packed too tight on the type of case they use. There's not a single one of those in this batch, which is the first time that's ever happened to me for any submission with CGC. So that's a good sign that being purchased by Blackstone Group has really improved not only their operations process, but the actual quality of the books we get back. Nothing was broken, nothing scuffed, anything. So kudos to them for that. Anyway, that's probably more information than you wanted to know, but again, this will go down as a fail. Maybe you guys can learn from me. If you're watching this and you do submit books to CGC, I would love to hear your feedback on what your experience has been recently, especially with 9.8 pre-screens. Me personally, I obviously am not very good at it, so since I only hit on 14 out of the 25. That's all I really had for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.